This entire city was carved by hand, but the tools were dropped, and no one ever came back. 2,000 years ago, they built perfection. Then, they simply erased themselves from history. Somewhere in the vast deserts of Arabia, a man stood high above the ground on a wooden scaffold. They buried it. Below him stretched an endless sea of sand to dig it up. Above him towered a sandstone cliff glowing red beneath the fierce desert sun. For months, perhaps years, he had carved intricate designs into the rock face before him. Every strike of his iron chisel echoed through the valley. Every mark brought him closer to completing one of the most ambitious monuments of the ancient world. Then one day he stopped. His tools were abandoned, his work remained unfinished, and whatever happened next vanished into history. The monument still stands today unfinished, silent, waiting. Its name is Qasr al-Farid, the Lonely Castle, and its mystery is only one of thousands hidden across a kingdom that remained largely closed to the outside world for generations. For decades, Saudi Arabia existed behind a curtain of mystery. News headlines showed one image. Political discussions painted another. Yet beyond those headlines lies a country few outsiders truly understand. A land where forgotten civilizations carved entire cities from stone. A land where oceans once covered deserts. For nearly a century, most travelers could only imagine what existed beyond these borders. Then, in 2019, something extraordinary happened. The doors opened. Almost overnight, one of the world's most secluded nations invited the world inside. What visitors discovered surprised nearly everyone. Because Saudi Arabia is not simply a nation of oil fields and deserts, it is a kingdom of astonishing contradictions. Ancient tombs stand beside futuristic megaprojects. Camel caravans cross landscapes watched over by skyscrapers. Saudi Arabia occupies more than 2 million square kilometers. It is one of the largest countries on Earth, a nation so vast that entire mountain ranges, ancient trade routes, hidden oases, and archaeological wonders remain unknown even to many who live here. Imagine standing in a desert valley 2,000 years ago. The smell of incense fills the air. Caravans carrying frankincense, myrrh, spices, gold, and silk move slowly across the horizon. Entire civilizations rise from the desert. Now imagine those civilizations vanishing, their cities abandoned, their monuments forgotten. What happened to them? Who built these places? And why were they lost? These questions still haunt the Arabian landscape today. As we travel across this remarkable kingdom, we'll uncover forgotten civilizations, walk through sacred cities that shaped the lives of billions, and discover why Saudi Arabia is becoming one of the most talked about destinations on Earth. But perhaps the most surprising discovery will not be what we find. It will be how different reality is from expectation. Because the Saudi Arabia most people imagine is only a small piece of a much larger story. How many great civilizations have disappeared? simply because later generations stopped paying attention. Perhaps that is why places like Saudi Arabia matter, not because they are perfect, but because they remind us how much of human history still remains hidden beneath the surface. If these forgotten voices could speak today, what do you think they would want us to remember? Long before Europe emerged from the shadows of antiquity, a thriving civilization was already transforming the deserts of Arabia into one of the world's most important crossroads. To find its traces, you must travel deep into northwestern Saudi Arabia. Past towering sandstone cliffs sculpted by wind and time, into a place known today as Alula. The silence here is profound, almost sacred. Yet 2,000 years ago, this valley echoed with the sounds of commerce, conversation, and constant movement. This was not an isolated wilderness. It was one of the most valuable locations in the ancient world. And at its heart stood a city called Hegra. Today, visitors arriving at Hegra often stop speaking the moment they see it. Scattered across the desert are more than 100 monumental tombs carved directly into enormous sandstone mountains. Perhaps the most astonishing fact is this: these monuments were not created by kings. They were created by merchants. The Nabateans, master traders who controlled the most profitable trade routes on earth. Yet among all the monuments of Hegra, one stands above the rest: Qasr al-Farid, the lonely castle. Standing completely isolated, its enormous facade rises 22 meters into the sky. But look closely, the upper portion is masterful, yet the lower section remains incomplete. Chisel marks remain frozen in time. It is as though the workers simply stopped in the middle of their task and never returned. Why? No one knows for certain. That uncertainty gives Qasr al-Farid a strange emotional power, because unfinished things often speak louder than completed ones. They remind us that history is not a collection of perfect endings. It is a story interrupted, a conversation cut short, a dream left unfinished. The Nabateans left clues everywhere, tiny voices speaking across millennia. Yet Alula holds another surprise, because nature itself became an artist here. Elephant Rock, a colossal sandstone formation naturally shaped over millions of years. As sunset approaches, the rock begins to glow, and it becomes easy to understand why people have considered this landscape magical for thousands of years. But Alula's story does not end with ancient civilizations. A chapter involving abandoned towns, forgotten pilgrims, and a futuristic mirrored structure so astonishing that it appears to disappear into the landscape itself. And what we discover there reveals a kingdom balancing one foot in the ancient past and the other firmly in the future. But Alula's story does not end with ancient civilizations. Hidden among these deserts is another chapter. A chapter involving abandoned towns, forgotten pilgrims, and a futuristic mirrored structure so astonishing that it appears to vanish into the landscape itself. This is the Maraya, a cube of glass and light reflecting the desert back at itself, forcing you to look at the landscape in a way you never have before. And what we discover here reveals the truth about this kingdom. Saudi Arabia is balancing one foot in the ancient past and the other firmly in the future. For generations, this land was a riddle. Now it is becoming a destination. But the transformation isn't just about glass, steel, and oil. It's about memory. It's about taking the stories that were almost lost, the merchants, the kings, the travelers, and ensuring they are never forgotten again. As we stand here, where 2 millennia of history meet the next 100 years of innovation, we have to wonder. If this land could survive the rise and fall of empires, the shifting sands, and the relentless sun, what will it become next? The desert is no longer silent. It is finally beginning to speak. If Alula tells the story of Saudi Arabia's ancient heart, then Jeddah reveals its soul. For more than 1,000 years, travelers approaching this city arrived from the sea. Sailors, merchants, pilgrims, explorers, dreamers. They came from Africa, India, Persia, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Some stayed for days. Others stayed for generations. Together, they helped shape one of the most fascinating king cities in the Middle East. Today, Jeddah stands on the eastern shore of the Red Sea. A sprawling metropolis of millions. Glass towers rise toward the sky. Modern highways stretch across the coastline. Luxury developments continue to reshape the horizon. Yet hidden behind this modern exterior lies a world that feels centuries removed from the present day. A place known simply as Al-Balad. The old city. Walking into Al-Balad feels like stepping through a doorway in time. The streets narrow. The noise softens. The pace slows. And suddenly, you find yourself surrounded by architecture unlike anything else in Saudi Arabia. Towering homes rise several stories high, their facades decorated with intricate wooden balconies known as rawashin. These beautiful lattice structures are among the defining symbols of historic Jeddah. But they were never built merely for decoration. Every detail served a purpose. The rawashin allowed cool sea breezes to flow through homes. They provided privacy for families inside. They reduced the intensity of sunlight. They transformed architecture into a tool for survival. Even more remarkable is what many of these buildings are made from. Coral. For centuries, builders harvested coral stone from nearby reefs in the Red Sea. The material provided natural insulation against the region's intense heat. Imagine that for a moment. Entire neighborhoods built from the sea itself. The ocean helping create a city that would become one of the most important gateways to Arabia. And for generations, those gateways welcomed people from every corner of the known world. Languages mixed here. Cultures blended here. Ideas traveled through these streets. In many ways, Jeddah became one of the first truly global cities in the region. You can still feel that legacy today. Look closely at the architecture. Notice the influences from different cultures. Listen to local stories. Taste the food. The city carries traces of countless journeys. Countless lives. Countless encounters between strangers who became neighbors. And perhaps that is one reason Jeddah feels so unique. Because its identity was shaped not by isolation, but by connection. By openness. By movement. By exchange. Yet beyond the old city walls, another Jeddah emerges. A city facing the future. The Corniche stretches along the Red Sea coastline for kilometers. Palm trees line the waterfront. Families gather in the evening air. Children play near the shore. Restaurants overlook the water. And towering above it all stands one of the city's most famous landmarks. The King Fahd Fountain. At first it seems impossible. A massive column of water erupts from the sea, rising higher and higher until it reaches more than 300 meters into the sky. Visible from miles away, the fountain dominates the horizon, especially after sunset, when illuminated water appears to float against the darkness. It is a symbol of modern Jeddah. Bold, ambitious, impossible to ignore. Yet beneath these waters lies perhaps the city's greatest treasure. A world many visitors never see. Because hidden beneath the surface of the Red Sea exists one of the most extraordinary marine environments on Earth. Crystal clear waters reveal vibrant coral gardens. Schools of colorful fish move through underwater canyons. Ancient reef systems thrive in conditions found nowhere else. Visibility often extends for remarkable distances. For divers, it is paradise. For marine scientists, it is invaluable. For everyone else, it is another reminder that Saudi Arabia contains far more diversity than most people imagine. How many people picture coral reefs when they think of Saudi Arabia? How many imagine turquoise waters instead of endless sand? Sometimes the world's greatest surprises come from places we think we already understand. And perhaps that's true of people as well. Have you ever completely changed your opinion about a place after visiting it yourself? If so, what surprised you most? Share your experiences in the comments. Because the next destination on our journey may challenge assumptions even more profoundly. Ahead lies a place that shapes the daily lives of nearly 2 billion people around the world. A place of extraordinary spiritual significance. A place that millions dream of visiting. And a place whose influence extends far beyond the borders of Saudi Arabia. Our journey now moves toward the holiest cities in Islam. Makkah and Medina, the spiritual heart. There are cities that become famous because of wealth. Cities that become powerful because of politics. And then there are cities whose importance cannot be measured by economics or geography alone. Their significance exists in something far deeper. Faith, memory, devotion. For more than 14 centuries, two cities in western Saudi Arabia have occupied a unique place in human history. Makkah and Medina. Together, they form the spiritual heart of Islam, a faith followed by nearly 2 billion people across every continent on Earth. Imagine the scale of that connection. At any given moment, people speaking hundreds of different languages, belonging to different cultures, are united by a single focal point, the Kaaba. Few places on Earth possess that kind of influence. Perhaps no annual gathering demonstrates this more powerfully than the Hajj. Every year, millions of pilgrims journey to Makkah. When they arrive, the distinctions that separate us begin to fade. Wealth becomes irrelevant. Status becomes irrelevant. Pilgrims wear simple white garments, a symbol of equality before God. An ocean of humanity moving together with a shared purpose, shared devotion, and shared hope. Managing such a gathering is one of the greatest logistical challenges on Earth. Towering above it all is the Abraj al-Bait complex, its giant clock face dominating the horizon, a modern landmark overlooking one of humanity's oldest spiritual traditions. Yet, while Makkah is the birthplace of the faith, another city lies to the north. Medina, the city of the Prophet. The atmosphere here feels different. Softer, more contemplative. At its heart stands Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, the Prophet's mosque. For centuries, believers have traveled here seeking a connection with a history that continues to shape billions of lives. What makes these cities remarkable isn't just their architecture or their size. It is the emotional connection they inspire. For countless people, these are not merely destinations. They are dreams imagined since childhood. Whether you share this faith or not, understanding Makkah and Medina is essential to understanding the Saudi kingdom itself. Because these cities define the kingdom's identity, its values and its role within the wider world. But beyond these sacred cities, our journey takes a sharp turn. Ahead lies a place where survival itself becomes a challenge. A desert so immense that entire countries could disappear inside it. A place called the Empty Quarter and a geological wonder known as the Edge of the World. Before we leave these sacred cities behind, I want to ask you, what place in the world holds the deepest meaning for you? A place connected to your memories, your beliefs, or your family history. Share your answer in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you are enjoying this journey across the kingdom, consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on notifications. Because our next destination will test the limits of human endurance unlike anywhere we've seen so far. There are places on Earth so vast, they seem to exist outside the boundaries of human understanding. Places where silence becomes overwhelming. Places where the landscape reminds us just how small we truly are. This is the empty quarter, the Rub al-Khali. Its name alone carries a sense of mystery, sounding less like a location and more like a warning. Stretching across southern Saudi Arabia, this is the largest continuous sand desert on Earth, covering an area larger than France. From the air, it appears almost unreal. Gigantic golden dunes roll across the horizon like frozen ocean waves, some rising over 100 meters into the sky. Every storm reshapes the landscape, meaning tracks vanish, landmarks disappear, and even experienced travelers can become lost. This is not a place that forgives mistakes. Summer temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius, water is scarce, and shade is non-existent. Yet, for thousands of years, people survived here. Imagine crossing this desert centuries ago, no GPS, no maps, no forecasts. Only the stars above, the sand below, and wisdom passed down through generations. The Bedouins mastered this environment in ways few outsiders can comprehend. They learned to read the patterns of the dunes and understood seasonal winds. They knew that the desert rewarded humility and punished arrogance. Even today, those who venture into the Rub al-Khali describe a profound shift. At first, the emptiness is intimidating. Then it becomes peaceful. And eventually, something unexpected happens. The silence begins to speak. Without notifications or distractions, the mind clears and time seems to slow down. Have you ever experienced true, complete silence? The kind that forces you to listen to your own thoughts. If so, what did it feel like? Share your story in the comments below. I read every one of them. As vast as this desert is, another wonder waits farther north. Imagine driving across a flat plateau when suddenly the ground simply ends. A massive cliff drops away into a 300-meter abyss. This is Jebel Firain, the edge of the world. Standing at the edge offers a perspective few ever forget, the realization that human lives are brief compared to geological time. These cliffs reveal ancient seabeds, a reminder that change is the only constant. No landscape remains the same forever, and no nation understands that transformation more clearly than Saudi Arabia today. Because while these deserts preserve ancient stories, a modern story is unfolding in steel, glass, and ambition. It is a story centered on Riyadh, a city that rose from the sands to define the future. What happens there may determine the fate of the entire kingdom. If you enjoyed this journey, please hit like and subscribe for our final chapter. If the empty quarter is the ancient wilderness, Riyadh is the future. Less than a century ago, this was a small mud brick settlement. Today it is a global metropolis, a forest of steel and glass piercing the desert horizon. Riyadh is reinventing itself in real time. Landmarks like the Kingdom Center capture this ambition, rising from a harsh environment to define progress. Yet, to understand the city, you must look beyond the glass. At its heart lies the Mazmak Fortress, where a 1902 mission changed the course of history. Every nation has moments that define its destiny. If you could witness any historical event in person, what would it be? Share your answer in the comments. I love hearing what sparks your curiosity. Beyond the skyline, Riyadh is defined by deep-rooted hospitality. From aromatic kabsa to the ritual of Saudi coffee. As evening falls, a new future emerges. For most of modern history, Saudi Arabia's story was tied to oil. But what happens when a nation decides to build a future beyond the resource that made it wealthy? That question drives Vision 2030, an ambitious initiative to reshape the entire kingdom. Across the country, the transformation is visible. From vibrant concert scenes to a rapidly expanding tourism sector, doors are opening at a speed rarely seen in history. A single generation is witnessing changes that would normally take a century to unfold. Nowhere is this ambition clearer than in Neom, where the futuristic project, The Line, is rising from the desert. Regardless of perspective, one fact is undeniable. Saudi Arabia is not just planning for the future, it is trying to define it. Standing here today feels like witnessing history. One foot is rooted in tradition, the other reaches toward tomorrow. We are watching this story unfold in real time. But what do you think? If you could visit one place connected to the future, where would you go? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious to read your ideas. After crossing ancient deserts and futuristic skylines, what is the real Saudi Arabia? The answer is more surprising than anything we've seen. Make sure you are subscribed for our final chapter, as we challenge every assumptions about this kingdom. At the start of this journey, we asked, how much do we really know about the places we think we understand? For many, Saudi Arabia exists only as a collection of headlines, a place defined by stereotypes. But as we've traveled across this kingdom, a more complex human picture has emerged. Saudi Arabia is not one story, it is many. It is a land of ancient tombs, bustling Red Sea ports, and a nation attempting one of the most ambitious transformations in history. Throughout this journey, the theme has been contrast, the ancient and the modern, the sacred and the practical, the desert and the digital age. Few places on Earth hold so many seemingly opposite realities within a single border. But the greatest lesson here isn't just about Saudi Arabia, it's about curiosity. Curiosity breaks barriers, replacing assumptions with understanding. The story of this kingdom is still being written, and its future remains unwritten. Its transformation continues, balancing heritage and ambition. If this journey changed the way you see this land, share this documentary with someone who might be surprised by what they discover. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what was the most unexpected thing you learned? Until next time, keep exploring, because the world's most fascinating stories are often hidden in the places we think we already know.